Hi there, folks. My name's NovaWing24, and welcome to a very special edition of the NovaWrap this week. This week we are having a interview with the wonderful organisers of FlightSimCon 2016. So that's the upcoming flight simulation conference for pilots and enthusiasts that's going to be happening June 11 and 12, so in just a few weeks' time. So today we are joined by Evan Reiter and Nicole Glander from the organising committee and the wonderful organisers of this excellent event. So hi guys, welcome to the Nova Wrap.
Hi, Tristan. Thanks for having us.
Hi.
And it's an absolute pleasure to have you guys on today. Evan, I know you are a man of few words, but we'll drag more out of you today.
You'll have to try. We'll see how far we can get. Once I get talking about flight simulation, it's usually hard to stop me, so I'm sure that you'll hear a bunch.
Well, that's what we're all here to talk about today. So I suppose we're going to get started. Let's do the sort of let's do the 30-second sort of mid-roll ad as it were, the mid Super Bowl ad as it were. Let's give us so Evan, do you want to give us a quick wrap, a quick sort of summary of what Flight SimCon is?
Absolutely, thanks. FlightSimCon is, at this point, North America's largest flight simulation and aviation conference. It's held every year. So far, it's been held every year right at Bradley International Airport by the at Bradley International Airport and at the New England Air Museum, which is a fantastic venue. You're surrounded by real world, vintage, and present day aircraft, military, civilian, and then, of course, you've got the Flight Sim conference happening in the middle of that. There are more than 45 confirmed sponsors and exhibitors this year, and we have a very extensive speaker list, 12 different panel discussions and presentations happening throughout the course of the weekend. So it's basically the largest and the best flight simulation conference there is in North America. So anyone who's interested in aviation or interested in flight simulation, we'd strongly recommend that they come out and meet people, meet exhibitors, try out different setups, and see what's going on in this amazing world of flight simulation that we all know and love.
And you know that's something that I really like about the idea of a flight simcon is that people often say there's a con or a conference for just about everything these days, but I think it's even more important for the world and the community of flight simulation because we are such a diverse community and such a global community that often we all sort of we meet and chat online and single player as well, but being able to actually reach out and actually to be able to speak and meet face to face with fellow passionate virtual aviators and some of the people that help make our virtual world is so important. So that's something that you're really trying to drive here, that sense of community.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's really neat. There's so many different sponsors and exhibitors that will be there. We have pretty much the who's who of add-on development. When I look at our website and I look at the list of people and companies that are on there, it's like all the add-ons I have on my computer, basically. And you're just going around and walking and talking to people from Orbix and from A2A and Aerosoft and Jetline, and it's like, wow, you guys made the 172, and I'm talking to the guys who created Rex. Like that's just a really cool thing to be able to do, and we're very happy this year to have all three of the major flight simulation platforms represented in one form or another. Both Laminar Research and Dovetail Games will have people at the conference. Dovetail will actually be speaking about their new upcoming releases in the world of flight simulation, which is very cool. So the sort of the next two Flight Sim Steam edition that's coming out from them. And then we don't have representation at the conference from Prepared, but we're happy to have them on board as a sponsor this year. And I believe they'll be donating a couple of lanyards as well that we'll be able to give away over the course of the weekend.
And that's fantastic.
And that was the idea behind the event, to begin with. Is I know over in Europe there's some events where folks can get together over there for flight simulation, but over here there really wasn't a platform, a place where people could do that. So people really do appreciate getting together at this event to finally meet each other in person.
Yeah, exactly, and it's great to see that you guys have built on such success. So from such small beginnings and have grown to one of the largest conferences in the flight simulation world now, in your fourth year here. So that's really great to see, and I think it's a real credit to not only you guys for organising it, but the liaising that you do with other community members to make it such an enjoyable experience that has had it grow so so much. How much growth have you said? I mean, as you said, you've got the list this year is the who's who of add-on developers, but how have you found that it's actually changed and impacted the community sort of views of flight simulation over the last few years?
See, in the beginning we had a few dozen people. We had just, let's say, about 50 people to begin with, and it was a matter of getting the word out over the course of these years, and it's really uh, taken off quite well to the point where now we're up to 500 plus people, and just to hear the stories and the smiles on people's faces once they get to this event, and they just really appreciate having a way to get together and actually see their fellow flights simulator friends, or or the just aviation people in general. They appreciate it as well, and they appreciate the work that goes into it.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And as I said, it's really about that building that sense of community, and it's appreciated by all, even those of us far and wide in far-flung parts of the world. Um, so I guess I want to talk a little bit about the appeal of that. So we sort of touched on that. It is very much about driving and encouraging that sense of community. But for a bit more details on it, sort of what's sort of like the draw card for. Let's we'll sort of maybe we might break this down. So for people who are sort of have been flight simming for a few years now, I know I personally know people who've been flight simming since the old the old well, not the Atari, but the original sort of Sim Logic flight sims. So tell me about sort of some of the appeal that it has for that long term user base.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think actually it's funny. We believe we had a Commodore 64 at the conference last year, and the gentleman who brought it actually also has a full-size Cessna 172 sim pit that he built out of a real airplane fuselage, and so he was there exhibiting the fuselage, and he's had a number of people that came up and were more interested in looking at the Commodore 64 than they were at actually looking at his fuselage, which was kind of funny. But I think the real appeal is exactly that for those who are longtime flight sim users. It's the chance to go and see what other people are doing. There is just going to be an incredible array of different setups for people to try. We at Boston Virtual Air TCC are bringing probably 20 or 30 different members who will all have their own setups. So some will be doing air traffic control live on the VATSIM network for us to watch. Others will be flying, and of course, attendees are more than welcome to try out those simulator setups. And then beyond that, it's about looking at some of those different exhibitor displays. I was just taking a look through a few of them today, and I was noticing Orbix is going to have a full VR Oculus Rift setup with a 4K TV and quite an impressive display. I know A2A and Jetline Systems are planning quite the booth. They did the same last year, I believe. GoFlight will be having their stuff out on display and give a chance to try their yoke, try their cockpit peripherals, those kinds of things. So we find that all of our exhibitors bring not just their own stuff, but obviously, fully loaded computers that you can try and you can fly and see what else is out there for your simulator setup. And then, of course, beyond the exhibitors, we have just an incredible array of speakers. We're very grateful to have some of the top names in the flight simulation industry, and then some from the aviation industry as well. So people who are not new to the flight sim world and who think they've seen it all, well, they can listen to developers from Orbix or listen to people from Dovetail Games or hear Austin Meyer talk about X-Plane. It's a really neat experience. You'll be able to learn lots about what's coming up next in the flight simulation industry, where we're going, and lots of tips and tricks for how to make your setup look that much more realistic and that much better.
And that's always quite interesting with the with that sort of vast array of experiences that one can have, and that's great. And that sort of also leads into people who might be because Flight SimCon is not just about those who have been using Flight Sim and Flight Simming for some considerable time. It's also about encouraging and welcoming new people who might be wanting to dip their toes into the virtual water, as it were, for the first time. And something I just picked up on just then was you mentioned that about the setups that are potentially going to be there. So it's not just going to be about the developers' super tweaked, amazing setups, although they will be there. It's also going to be about just everyday flight simmers and everyday people and the systems that they have.
That's right. And so it's interesting, Active Sky might be there showing off their product and GoFlight might be there showing off their product. But for someone who wanted to just see, well, what practically could I do? I mean, I'm not going to be able to afford, a $3,000 or $4,000 machine, but what could I do and what might it look like? Well, you'll be able to see that and you'll be able to try that. And that's what Boston Virtual Air TCC is there to do, is to show you how flying and controlling in an online environment will work. And so you can sit down either beside one of our controllers and they'll show you what they're doing. They'll show you the aircraft they're talking to, and then they'll point across the room and say, "Yeah, this is that radar target that you see right there. There's Mike, and he's sitting at his sim setup, and you can walk across the room and see him." I remember one of our first years, I was actually controlling, and I had two aircraft on a parallel approach into Boston, and I was sitting right across from the two of them. And as I was giving them traffic point outs, I could see them looking at their screen trying to find the other aircraft. So it's a really neat thing to be able to watch, and it gives you a very good understanding of what's happening on online networks like VATSIM and IVAO every day of the week.
And I think it's again I know I sort of keep harping on about it but for me it's such an important part of who we are and what we do is that community aspect, and it's great to be able to meet those people, and that's just and so I'm just imagining and picturing that in my head there with sort of you do it on doing the controller, and you can actually look up and you can see the two guys that you're controlling, not only just as a little couple of pixels on the screen, but you can actually physically see them, and then you can talk to them afterwards.
You're right, and there's once I was sit beside the guy sometimes who's flying, and you can you'll give an instruction, and you just sort of see him perk up and focus and start writing down as you're going. It's very very cool to be part of, and so again, we'll have the opportunity for people to participate in those kinds of things and to do that. And like Nicole said, we've seen this type of thing very commonly in Europe. There's all kinds of VATSIM live events where folks get together and they do air traffic control in person or they fly in person. That's all across Europe. It happens all the time, but in North America, we're not as fortunate, and so we thought it was really important. Nicole and the Glander Associates Event Management thought it was very important to bring that same concept here, and that in part is what FlightSimCon is about. And then, of course, beside that, you've got the conference activities going on at the same time.
I think the all ages thing is really nice
Yeah.
too. I think some of the older guys who've been doing this for a long time expected that it was just going to be, people from the older generations, but it's just young and old and in between. So it's a nice, mix of people.
And really and funny enough, a lot of people sort of I know there was talk over the last few years, I suppose going back a few years now, that sort of everybody was a bit worried that the flight simulation, hobby and sort of think way of doing things was going to go the way of the dodo as we all started dying off. But sounds horribly morbid, but it was a real concern for a while there. But it's great to see events like this actually bringing the giving that tactile and that personal touch, and actually welcoming and being about welcoming new members and new people into the community as well. As you said, both young and old alike, which is great to see. And on the sort of community thing and panels. So you were saying that we've got quite a few panel discussions. I'm flicking through the some of the speakers here. We're going to have some. We've got you particularly. We've got one of the most famous flight sim YouTube personalities. We've got Frugal there. We've got people from American Airlines. I can even see that we've got somebody from the military there, from the Canadian Armed Forces.
Yeah, we're very excited to have Major Adam Sabansky with us. He reached out to us very early on in the conference when he was interested to come down and speak. He's got a very interesting story. He's a tactical helicopter pilot, 2,500 hours or something like that of flight time on various aircraft types, including helicopters, of course. And he's also an experienced accident investigator. And so what he's going to talk about is how air forces, including the Canadian Armed Forces, use flight simulation for both training but also for accident investigation. So that should be a very interesting look at how flight simulation is applied in the real world. And he's going to be doing a few demonstrations of some IFR proficiency stuff, some mission simulation, and as well he'll be looking at some flight safety analysis and visualization from his work as an accident investigator.
Excellent, and just sort of relating to that and to the all the media events there. So are we? Because everybody loves to know if they can take stuff away with them from conferences, and obviously many of the retailers there or the developers there will be selling their wares. Is there chances to win things as well? Maybe some exclusives.
Yeah, definitely. We don't have a lot of exhibitors probably won't be selling too much on site. We've tried to limit that just because we are quite space limited. So some people may be taking orders and things like that, but it's really more about, trying out things and being able to see them for yourselves. And a lot of these things we're talking about yokes or headsets. I mean, they're big things, so we don't have the space for them. And obviously for exhibitors who are coming across the country or, in cases like yourself, Tristan, from across the world, it's a little bit more challenging for them to bring items. So we may not see too much to actually sell or purchase right on site, but orders are for sure, and a lot of the flights and stuff happens online anyway. But there's quite a bit happening. Everyone's going to get a conference bag as long as they register in advance, and that has a whole bunch of great giveaways from a number of our sponsors. I don't have the full list. Nicole may have them, but I could think of mugs and plush toys and pens and everything else you could think of probably as far as giveaway items will be in there. And then above and beyond that, there's a number of great prizes available to be won throughout the weekend, a variety of contests and raffles and giveaways. We've got some games from Big Fat Simulations, which does that very popular Airport Madness series, a round trip flight with Cape Air. So anywhere that Cape Air flies, to those who are from the New England area, that's a really great, valuable prize. Certainly well over a couple $100 in value there. And some DVDs from JustPlanes.com. And then we've got 3 of the David Clark Model H PC headsets. So those classic general aviation, green David Clark headsets, but actually with a USB port, so you can plug them into your computer for guys who like to fly general aviation. And there are also a number of Track IR 5 Pro bundles, so the clip and then the little receiver for anyone who hasn't tried Track IR yet. That'll be a great giveaway prize for sure. It's one of my favorite flight simulator add-ons. I'm really glad to see them in as a sponsor this year.
And of course, for those who are coming and traveling across the way, it's obviously it is very conveniently located at the New England Air Museum at Bradley International. So it's very nice and simple and easy to get to and stay for the weekend.
It is, yeah. If you fly right into Bradley, it's such an easy airport, and our host hotel is right at the airport. You don't even have to leave the airport to get to the hotel. You just walk right over, and they even have shuttles going over to the museum because the museum is just you have to drive around the airport to get there, so it's a couple miles at the most. But they have shuttles if you're staying at the Sheridan, and if you're staying at another area hotel, most of them have shuttles as well, or you can call a taxi in advance. It's all very convenient.
And for those who are flying themselves into the conference, which we do expect quite a few of, we've partnered with the Signature Flight Support Group at Bradley Airport, and they are very graciously giving our pilots a dollar discount on fuel, and as well, they will waive all the usual airport fees. I think it's usually about $35 or $40 just to fly into Bradley at all. So for people who maybe were wanting to and who are close by the area, perhaps, but have never actually been able to land there, quite a cool airport to land at. I mean, you've got all kinds of commercial service in there. So our partners, Signature Flight Support, is a great place to park, and they also offer free ground transportation to and from the museum and the hotel. I know there's a number of our exhibitors who are planning to fly in. I know Bart from Volair Sim is flying himself in, and I believe the same is true for Kevin from Apropel.
I
And
was
all that information, I'm sorry, all that information is on our website too, on the hotel and travel page, FlightSimCon.com.
Fantastic, fantastic. Alrighty. Well, that is really great, and it's really great to see that you guys are also supporting the real world pilots as well, and great to see that you got the FBO signature is partner with you guys. That's great to see. Look, I for one definitely looking forward to it, and as this is sort of part of the official announcement, and for those who have been paying attention to this interview, Evan sort of did slightly sort of hint at the surprise there. So just as an officially, I will be attending Flight SimCon 2016 this year. So I hope to see. I look forward to seeing you, Evan and Nicole, there, and I look forward to hopefully seeing many of my viewers out there as well. So if you are coming along to Flight SimCon, don't forget to look for me and give me a shout. I look forward to seeing you guys there, and for everybody else who's thinking that they might be going to Flight SimCon, look, it is a really great thing. I've been sort of following Flight SimCon for a few years. I've been fortunate enough to do a couple of these interviews before and after the show, and it just looks and speak with people who've been there, and it's a great time. It's a great way to really engage with your fellow enthusiasts in the virtual aviation world, and a really great way to explore all the things that are currently happening, some of the history of flight simulation, and also most importantly our future. And because being part of events like this is how we actually shape our future of flight simulation.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having us, Tristan. It's been great to talk to you and really great to see that you'll be attending the event. I guess I did spoil the surprise, so I apologize for that, but it'll be great to see you there for sure. And I'm glad you can make it. We're really thrilled to have so many people coming from around the world, representation from pretty much all the continents, and folks like myself traveling down from Canada. I know of really a large contingent coming across from Europe, including a number of our sponsors and exhibitors, and folks coming all the way out from Australia, yourself, Orbix. So it's great to see that worldwide reach is happening. And I think you're right. I mean, that's what this flight sim community is it's a worldwide conference. And so even though we're holding it here in North America, it really is a global event.
Yes, thank you, Tristan. And we wish everybody a great trip here to Connecticut, and we'll see everyone in just a few weeks.
Thank you very much, guys. So, folks, that does wrap up this one. So, say we'll thank you, Evan, and thank you, Nicole, very much for joining me on this special edition of the NovaWrap. Folks, as I said, the event is coming up on June 11 and 12 this year, so just a few weeks away. Don't forget to pre-register your tickets at FlightSimCon.com. I'll pop a link in the description down below. And of course, as always, don't forget as well that there is a fantastic social event and dinner after on the Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, sponsored by my friends over at FlightSimStore.com. Don't forget to come along to pre-register for that and come along for that as well. All right, folks, thanks very much for joining me. Don't forget, as always, to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying these and want to see more. And of course, as always, you can catch up with me and all the things I'm up to between videos by finding me on Facebook and on Twitter. Just search NovaWing24. All right, folks, thanks very much for watching. Take care, safe skies to all, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.